Hey, Countdown City Geeks, we're back again. This time we got an awesome guest because this person has worked in the industry for film and has transitioned to comic books. And if you don't know, she's going to be working on the new Dr. Aphra series that's going to be dropping. And we're going to get to talk to her about that, a little bit about Radiant Red, um, and then how she got into the industries. If you don't know, she worked on trailers that we get to watch before movies as well. But before we get into this, we're gonna, give a special thanks and shout out to our friends at Dragons of Alamo Ranch. Without them, interviews like this, being able to research on comics, that wouldn't be able to do this. Dragons of Alamo Ranch, is a place where you can play Magic, D&D, Pokemon, One Piece, 40K, and you can pick up comics. I'm there 3 days a week, and you get to talk to me if you want about comics. I can help you out. And then one more shout out, of course, to Casa. Without Casa, they're going to be dropping this show's be focused nothing but on comic book artists and creators. It'll be November 15th, 2025 at the Red Oak Ballroom at North Center. So if you love comics, bring your books. They've got a list of people that are there already. Go to the website, check it out. All right, it's not waiting no longer. Let's get her into the room. Cherish Chen, welcome to Countdown.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, you have worked some crazy stuff.
That's a
How did
nice way of putting it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a normal thing. You don't I mean, you went to film school.
Mhm.
Um, and what was it, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Lord of the Rings is what hooked you to get into film?
Oh my god, I was like, "Did I say that somewhere?" It absolutely I was like, I'm definitely of the generation that, the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. I watched it every Christmas, every December, and then when the DVDs came out, with the extended cuts, like, I was raised on that all those X special
Wow.
features and the commentary, and I was in high school at the time, and it really just, like, kind of was like, "Oh, this is a thing. Filmmaking is a job that people can do," you know? And I just, like, was obsessed with Peter Jackson and just yeah, so, that was kind of the big push into, like, wanting to just like, I only applied to film schools, um,
Wow.
and, yeah, it ended up working out in an incredible way, like, film schools really like, I have, like, pros and cons of the experience. I talk to a lot of, like, upcoming filmmakers, like, young filmmakers too, so, like, a lot
Oh,
of thoughts on
wow.
that, but, yeah, Lord of the Rings was definitely I'm actually just, like, rewatching Fellowship right now because I just saw, like, a meme of, like, someone doing a Sean Bean Boromir impression, and, like, I was like, "Oh my god, I have to watch this again."
Ah, that is so awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so you went from that and then you went to school and talk to us about getting the job and putting trailers together. I mean, I didn't know that was a process.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I didn't either at the time. I so I really went. This will come back, but I really went to film school because I really loved writing, particular. Like that was
Oh,
my
okay,
first
okay.
thing. But I think like a lot of people, once they go through the film school process, um, producing is just where I could get more work. Um, and so I had a ton of weird industry jobs. Um, just various offices. I was an assistant to like a film composer that's pretty well known,
Oh,
an
wow.
assistant to famous actor's brother. Anyway, um,
Wow.
but I landed at a trailer house, is what they call them. They're the vendors, and so I started as a PA, just learning kind of the marketing side of filmmaking. And we did TV. We did what we called broadcast TV at the time, and films, but we would do all kinds of things, not just trailers, like sizzle reels when you're like trying to sell a concept of a movie to like
Oh, wow.
financiers. You would like cut things together then. And it kind of, I worked my way up to like a coordinator and then a producer.
Wow.
And then, yeah, like over the years, just spent like basically worked with clients at every major studio. So, worked with Disney a lot, Fox, Sony, Warner Brothers,
Wow.
um, And like, yeah, the coolest, the last thing I was able to work on was Mad Max Fury Road before I transitioned back into producing like in actual production. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, marketing was a really, I think a lot of creators can be a little cynical about it. Um, but there's so much creativity and like it's a really it can't there, it's a tough place to work a lot of times, but it's also really exciting. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, I mean, just like seeing people's reactions when you like finally get a trailer finished, right? And then you put it through the process. And then we put it on like YouTube or it goes on the websites and seeing everyone's reactions to it. It was like it was we would get Comic-Con trailers up when, like Hall H was a
Oh,
huge, and it was just
okay.
yeah.
You just opened the worm. Okay, so
Okay.
what trailer did you get to work on for Hall H?
We did. I will say we duked it out with a lot of other trailer houses to get the Hall H trailer sometimes. I think the one we did was we worked on the one that was Fury Road, Mad Max.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I think another trailer house got the finish, but like kind of part of what we worked on was integrated into that. But I also worked on like Godzilla, the
Oh.
first one. Yeah. I was obsessed with, like, Godzilla's roar because like, we, like, listened to it every day, and it's, like, the sound designers who did Godzilla's roar is, like, amazing. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, like, I did a couple, I think, like, the first Marvel movie I did was Thor: The Dark World, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, nice.
Um, but yeah, there's quite a few, I did, like, I did work on Marvel stuff, but kind of the smaller things like, the more internal, like, Disney Marvel, pieces we would cut together or, like,
Oh,
international
nice.
trailers we would work on, like, I did some Japanese trailers for Maleficent, if you guys remember that
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, so and then if that so a lot of people don't know,
Mm.
editing is a process. It
Oh, yeah.
takes you a long time to cut and splice all that to make it just run smoothly. Like it's more of it to me, I feel it's more like you have and of course you have to run it by take it to higher ups, right? You
Oh.
feel what you think is right in this, and then they tell you, no, let's put this instead. Is that how that works?
Oh, yeah. I think, trailer editing or marketing like, editing with marketing departments is very different. Well, I wouldn't say maybe that different because 'cause you're still going through a notes process, but, like, in marketing, I was on the vendor side, right? I worked for the trailer house, and then, the clients were the studio executives.
Yeah.
So, basically, there was kind of a saying we have where, like, your real true, like, creative darling is really your V1, your version 1, and
Oh, okay,
then
okay.
after that, it goes through so many notes,
Wow.
like, like hundreds of notes, I'll be honest. Like, again, I was on Fury Road for 3 years just to get out,
Oh,
like, a handful of marketing materials at the end, right? Like, well, there's only, I think, like, a teaser, there was a
yeah.
Comic-Con trailer, and then so our finish was the last trailer, the big meaty one.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but yeah, you're on it for years because you're just I mean, basically, as soon as dailies come in, you're watching the movie and, like, starting to break it down,
Oh, wow,
and
that soon.
yeah, and you're just planning the marketing campaign from, like, like, before there's a lot of times a finished cut of the movie itself.
Holy crap. That is
Yeah,
some crazy stuff.
yeah, so there's so many notes. It's a client-based business, so, you're basically responding to notes from your main executive and then their boss, focus
Wow.
groups. Yeah, it's a whole and then you're, like, cutting up against other trailer houses too, other editors are competing for the same spot.
Oh, so then they pick the best one.
Yes, yeah,
Wow, that's some crazy stuff. Well,
yeah.
then while you're doing that, you and your buddy Kyle, I think it's Kyle, right?
Kyle Higgins, is that who you yeah.
No, the one that you worked on together
Oh,
to do a comic, and then you switched over when you met
oh,
Kyle.
so Kevin it was
Kevin,
Kevin.
okay.
Yes, my
Kevin,
friend
yes.
Kevin. I was like, "Man, when did I talk about all this stuff?" He's like, "Your research is really good, Ray." Um, Uh, yeah, so kind of the story goes, I was in a producing position. Um, like I worked at this company called Rocket Jump for a while. We did a lot of TV shows. It was a super fun job. I met my friend Kevin there, who was the
Yeah.
head of the sound design department, actually.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So neither of us were like actively writers at this company, but I did producing, and then I would kind of run these development meetings in which I was like, oh, on Fridays I'm going to be sitting in this conference room, and anyone with like an idea that they're excited about should come and we can work on it together because there were so many creative people at this company.
Wow.
Um, and then so my friend Kevin, again a sound designer, was like, hey, I have this idea I've had since college, and I don't know if it's like a book, a novel, or like a show, or exactly what it is, but this is like the world I have. And
That's crazy.
yeah, and it was like super. I was like, I don't think it'd be a TV show because it would literally be like $500 million or something. It was like a science fiction concept,
Yeah.
and but it was brilliant. I mean, he had such a great idea. It was super visual, like I could see it, you know. And then I basically, when we both left this company, I was like, I'm trying not to do producing work. I really want to give writing a shot because, like I mentioned, writing was kind of my first love, right? My first passion. So that was scary.
Wow.
Um, but I was writing features films and then trying to get that started and like relearning how to be like how to activate my writing brain because it's so different than a producing brain.
Yeah.
And I hit up my friend Kevin and I was like, hey, listen, I'm still thinking about this idea. I know you're working as a sound designer. I'm working on features, but like, what do you think about doing this together as a comic? And neither of us had any idea what the comic book industry was like. Like I grew up reading like X-Men, and I was like, I feel like everyone's entry point back into comics is Saga. So
Yeah.
like I was reading comics, but like not like intensely, and I didn't know as a creator how to go about like how different it was or how similar it was to what I was already doing.
Yeah.
So we really had no idea. We were very naive, frankly, but that actually kind of helped. But we worked on this idea really hard for like 2 years, like as our side job.
Wow.
Um, and one thing led to another, which is like we got to a point where we're like, okay, we have like six solid scripts for issues, like kind of a breakdown of what we want it to be. Excuse me. And I was like, I think we should just start talking to people and like learning about the industry, asking questions, like seeing if we know anyone who's really active in the comic book industry who can kind of like just help us navigate a little bit, right? And that's how I met Kyle Higgins. Um, and yeah, Kyle was a mutual, we had some mutual friends. And Kyle was like, why do you want to do this as a comic if you're film people? And which is like, I was like, now I get, totally fair. He was like, a very fair question. And then Kyle was like, okay, let me read it. And he really liked it. And
That's so cool.
basically, long story short, that I still love that idea, that first comic I ever co-wrote with my friend, but we're still looking for a home for it, like one day maybe it'll see the light of day in some way. Like we really want to get it out there. I still really passionate about it. But the first thing that actually came out was Kyle asked me to work on Radiant Black issue 6
Wow.
with him. Excuse me. So that was the first comic thing I'd ever had come out. That was my
Wow.
debut.
And
And then
Kyle Higgins is huge. I mean, he has been in the industry for a long while and he's worked on Power Rangers. He's
mhm,
transitioning from Boom to DC and he's going to be writing the new Batman series,
yeah,
which is kind of based off animation, or not animation, but um, the Japanese kind of characters, which is
mhm,
cool. I am looking forward to that. Um, but then from there, you transition to your story of Radiant Red, and that has done so well. That's its own universe in itself. That's another interview that we could go on from that whole interview of like Radiant Black and then the whole universe, the suns. So when you did Radiant Red, you know, did Marvel reach out to you, or did you pitch a story for Dr. Aphra, or how did that process go?
Wow. So yeah, Radiant Red came out in 2022.
Yeah.
And then from there, I kind of got a couple of other jobs, comic jobs, like very indie. I feel like this is a real testament to just the creative process and perseverance. Not necessarily on my part. It's just this is what was crazy is that I had a job that I was really excited about that I've been working on for the past few years. It was for a middle grade book that, again, hopefully might come out one day. But long story short, it I wrote it, but then it didn't land where it needed to be. It basically the book deal got dropped.
Okay.
Hopefully, it
Okay.
finds another home. But I found out about that bad news on a Tuesday last year, and I was like, okay, that's kind of how the industry goes. You roll with the punches, you get ups and downs. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna wallow for a week, and then Monday I'll be right back at it, right? And then so I went to the movies by myself, like Wednesday, Thursday. I saw like Planet of the Apes, and then on Friday, Marvel reached out to me, just being like, "Hey, are you interested in something?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Yeah, I'm interested in something." um, and you know, the editor, who was really kind, then emailed me, and then he was like, "Hey, it's Aphra. Are you familiar?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm familiar with Dr. Aphra and Star Wars." So Marvel reached out like 2 years after Radiant Red came out. It's just it's a
Wow.
really wild experience. Like I think you just try and do your best work, uh, given the circumstances always, and then hopefully you get responses to that. So it's been a ride. It's really exciting.
So you knew Dr. Aphra. I mean, she's such a great iconic character. I
Oh
mean,
my god.
she's gone under the radar. Well, not I mean, for unless you read the comics and you read books, and if you're a person who just watches the shows and the movies and don't really go into the lore,
Mhm.
you don't know who she is. You
Mhm.
know, and but if you're a person who reads the comics and stuff, her story and backstory, where she's worked with Vader, you know, she's just kind of like a hardcore, I say mercenary, but she does what she needs to do to survive.
Oh yeah.
And so she's on either side. And
Mhm.
you know, the two characters that I really love were the droids that we had in it. The
Oh,
tweet.
Triple
Yes.
Zero and yeah. I
Yes.
mean, come on. They're so fun. I feel like everybody loves the droids.
Yeah, and they're a different spin. And I mind you, they're like complete opposite of R2D2 and C3PO.
Oh yeah. And yes. A heart.
But okay, if I take it you're watching The Mandalorian and all that, right? And
I did
Boba
what
Fett, Book of
yes.
Boba Fett.
Yes. Yes.
So at one point, I was like, okay, we're gonna get Dr. Aphra,
I know
and
because Chrysanthemum shows up anyway, yeah.
yes, and then okay, so I'm like, I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and nothing happens. I'm like, oh, but I feel with this book that we're gonna get, because especially with the way the comic is going with the current stories, how it's leading up to like taking place after Return of the Jedi and stuff like that. Well, now she's working with Luke, and she's worked with Luke before, but this new series I'm looking forward to. I want to see what, because while everything is going to, guys, if you don't know while we're watching Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back, while we're watching this, she's in the back doing stuff,
Mhm.
actually kind of helping the guys.
Yeah.
And so how was it? And of course, and also, guys, if you didn't know, this character that she is, she's an Asian descent. So that is huge. Um, and I'm hoping with these new movies, eventually we get a live action version of her.
Yeah. Mhm.
So this series you're doing, is it going to be a mini series, or is it going to be an ongoing series?
Um, I'm gonna I'm trying to think of what I can even say. It is I'll say it's a miniseries.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
did you go back just to research to make sure you're following what was written before and stuff like that? Or would they give you an open door to give her to a new area?
There so just the nature of the era we're writing in, kind of with
Yeah.
this, like, kind of reboot,
Yeah.
it's so new. So, like, kind of I think the I definitely I had read the Kieran Gillen stuff, I read Vader Down, which is, like, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then I kind of I was made my I had started Alyssa's, run and just finished what they had put together, and it was just, like, it's epic. Like,
Yeah.
Aphra's whole thing is, like, you can totally it's just Aphra works so well in comic form because she's just, like, pure adventure and
Yes.
twisty and, like, she's so much fun, and she's really fun for me to write, like, especially. Um, but I so in this new area, it's post Jakku, which is,
Yeah.
like, after Return of the Jedi plus, a little bit of time. So, like, the Empire has truly you wanna say the Empire's truly been defeated minus, like, little factions, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the focus, I think, was on new as much as possible while trying to keep Aphra connected to the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we were really trying to thread that's why, like, the first issue is with Luke,
Yeah.
um, and, people really loved I believe it was a three-parter in Alyssa's run, right? I think it was a three-parter. Maybe it was a
Yeah.
two-parter. Um, but yeah, so there's an attempt to yeah, Gabriel's preview pages. Um, an attempt to yeah, like connect Aphra to the goings ons of Star Wars, especially since again this is like a very undefined era in Star Wars, in canon at least.
Yes.
Um, and while also my whole thing is like I love it when Star Wars is new because it's just like it feels so expansive, right? When we do new things in Star Wars, the world feels bigger. You get new characters to fall in love with. But I also very much understand, like, hey, we're doing this new thing. Like, let's still. Afra isn't. It's almost more fun, like you said, when you're like, oh, she's still involved in these things that we don't see in the other, almost like the main thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was really balancing those two things and like wanting to like fill it with. We're gonna see like a lot of worlds that are like planets that are kind of maybe we haven't
Are they-
seen since like comics in the 70s. Like I kind of
Oh
reference like
wow.
older locations or just locations that you don't see. Like we're not doing a lot of stuff on Tatooine, or we're doing like newer worlds ideally. And I try to include a lot of new characters as well. And I
So
had so
more
much
like
support in that.
outer rim kind of stuff.
Kind of jumping around a little, yeah. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So we're just trying to really like walk the line of that. Like give her you're gonna see familiar faces, but as much as possible in new contexts.
Nice. I mean, it's so weird just because she's worked with Luke's father and not the young version, the dark version, and
Mhm.
I want to see if any conversations come up of like if she's like, oh, I worked with Vader, and then maybe I don't know. This is just me thinking out loud that like Luke asked, like, so you worked with Vader, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's just me as a comic geek. I think
Mhm.
of the crazy stuff. But no, I am looking forward to what you're writing. I mean, the art is great. Um, and that's the best part. I mean, Alex is doing great with the Battle Chaku and
Mhm.
everything. That was a
Mhm.
great run. And I'm liking how they're incorporating what didn't do so well in the TV series about the acolytes, and
Mhm.
we're getting them in the comic form that they are still here,
Mhm.
but not realizing that okay, even the shows not didn't do so well, they still exist. And if you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
reading the comics, you need to be reading these comics because you know it's you can't just watch shows. Don't get me right, shows are great, but it's good to read at the same time. And they fill in little holes that the show can't. Like you said, it's it costs so much to make the TV show and the movies. You're able to fill that in here with the ships and stuff that you can't do on the screen.
Yeah, I actually think that that's one of, I've met other creators who work in film and TV and in comics,
Yeah,
and it's really interesting seeing um like in comics you really, because it's such a it's still collaborative, but it's a much smaller team, and I feel like you have so much more room to be conceptual or to try things, and also the readers are so much more willing to see new things and try new things,
yeah.
than necessarily, like, having to justify, like Andor being $650 million, which in my mind totally worth it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's just it's there's definitely room to kind of to try things, and I like that it's kind of the benefit of having, like, a multimedia way of, like, telling stories with, like, Lucasfilm and Marvel,
Yeah.
like, you can do that, right? You can continue threads on and try maybe, like, a different take on it, or things have changed, right, over time, and that's why I'm like, anytime we get to expand that universe, that's so cool, expand the galaxy. It's like it's really exciting.
Oh, it is. I mean, Alex, like I said, if nobody's read Jakku, the Battle of Jakku, you got to read it. Um,
Mhm,
one of the things that caught me, and like I'm reading it, and as soon as I see like Leia walking, and then you see the helmet of Vader that Rin has later,
mhm.
in Skywalker, and you're like, that's she had it.
How that
That's how they
happened,
got it back.
yeah,
Yeah, and I was like,
yeah,
my mind was blown, and I'm like, this
mhm,
dude is, it's weird. Like it's like watching Doctor Who. You may have
mhm,
watched it the first time, but you can go back and watch it again, and you miss things that you weren't paying attention at the first time.
mhm,
And that's
mhm.
how I feel right here because with what Alex is doing in Return of the Jedi. Now, mind you, after Return of the Jedi, there were novels that took place after
Yes,
that,
which
which
I
now go ahead. You read them?
that was, like, kind of, I mean, that's kind of the big reference, is that's the big canon, like, the novels are the big canon kind of flashpoints, right? Like, that's kinda like, "Okay, this is what happened in this time period," because there's not much else. So, yeah, the
Yeah.
novels are really, I think, really important.
Yeah, but and also too, they said now that at that time they said that those novels are not canon unless it was after a certain point. So it
Right.
was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of like it gave us stuff to read since we didn't have TV shows and
Oh, you're
movies.
talking about, yes, the legends, like, yes, the further,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah. And now with this, anything that we're seeing now in the comic world current is canon.
yeah.
So
Mhm,
everything that we see, characters introduced, um, worlds introduced,
mhm.
I feel those things that we see either here in Dr. Aphra will tie into either Ahsoka or, later in Mandalorian, because
Mhm.
you have to fill in, give us like something that we're gonna see later here. Just like in
Yeah.
Bad Batch, you know, and Star Wars Rebels,
Mhm.
if you didn't watch any of those cartoons, when people watched Mandalorian, they didn't think, oh, like for a person who didn't watch that stuff, seeing Hera and all that, it didn't hit them like people like me who watched the cartoons because,
Totally.
and that's what I feel like. Okay, that's why we need people to read the comics so they
Yeah.
can get that feeling when they're watching the movies and the shows.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like when Harris shows up in the Aphra series, it's so fun because it's like, oh, it's like that big splash page where you see her and you're like, "Oh my god," like, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
totally. Um, yeah, I think it's like it's a real building blocks era in this time period right now,
Yeah.
and so it's, like, exciting as a creator. I think for readers, it's like it's kind of a jumping on point, and so,
Oh,
like,
nice.
because you want people, again, there's so much new, so,
Yeah.
um, like, again, the context for which we meet Aphra in issue 1, it's like it is very much a starting point, and, like, I think maybe it might be a little harder for people to be excited about sometimes because it's, like, away from the movies, away from the TV shows
Yeah.
a little bit, but hopefully if there's excitement for it, we can keep building on it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like comics is going through a tough time, so it's like, you kind of hope,
Oh yeah.
we can
We
keep it
need people
going.
like us to hype it up because without that, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of it's word of mouth. When someone
So
comes
word
into
of
the store, yeah, and somebody comes to
yeah.
the store and they say, "Hey, do you have something to read?"
Mhm.
And you have to ask, like, "Okay, what are you into? Are you into Star Wars? Are you into DC? Are you into Marvel?" And when they say, "Oh, I'm a Star Wars fan," and I'm like, "All right, well, you know what? Pick this up. This is on issue 4, but it's coming out in a graphic novel." Or that's how you can help get those people and new people involved. Because like right
Totally.
now, Invincible has been around for 25 years.
I know.
And right now, everybody's walking into the store because they saw the cartoon
TV
and they're
show.
like,
Yeah.
do you have Invincible comics? And we're like, that's like trying to pull teeth right now. I go, your best bet's gonna be graphic novels. Cause
Mhm.
if you're trying to find single issues, they've
Oh,
been around for
they're
25
oh
years.
yeah, those are a whole other thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, without spoilers, um, for the Star Wars part, is it a 20 page issue? How many issues are we? I mean, how many issue pages is issue one?
So the first issue is 25.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, okay,
Yeah. So we
that's
got
gonna be freaking.
a little bit more meat on the bone on the first one, which is kind of, as a writer, really nice.
Yeah, because normally sometimes it's less, and then unless it's like a big one, like 30 pages sometimes, so it varies on the
Yeah.
publisher.
Sometimes if it's like got a lot of, it's a really exciting launch, you can get a double issue as
Yeah,
the first one, which is always really exciting. But 25, and then the rest are 20.
and guys, this is, of course, you can't really see the full picture in the back. I'm gonna give you guys, if you're watching online, you're gonna get to see the full cover. This is just one of the covers. This is my favorite cover, actually.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. The all the variants are really fun, so I
Yes.
love it. This is very Aphra, so
And this
uh,
the look on her face, just like, really? Like you're, I'm only gonna be here for a little bit.
yeah,
It's just you get
yeah,
that smirk from her face.
hmm
Uh
very
it's gonna
knowing.
be a yes, it's gonna be a great I don't know, just so excited. So when does it officially drop? So fans who don't know.
June 18th, so
Okay.
next week, next
Nice.
Wednesday. So that'll be really exciting, and then should be coming out every month. We've got so many. It's a lot of adventures. I think, again, a lot of familiar faces for like people who are into Star Wars. These are people you will recognize,
Wow.
and yeah, hopefully we get some readers on board and we see what happens, and like we do Aphra right, and she's just been fun. There's so much I want to do with her. Um, there's so much, but we'll see if we get the chance at some point.
Well, I also want to talk about you wrote a movie, and I wanted to talk about that. How does it feel to have one of your movies not just win, some awards at South by Southwest? My dead friend Zoe, how was it? How is it getting your first story on the
Man,
big screen?
um, the film industry is wild. I mean, it's just like getting you just having that movie come out and then have the response that it did at South by, and then like actually get a theatrical run, is so rare and surreal right now. So it was real, I just simple connection. I was like, so my friend, the director of the film, my
Yeah.
different Zoe, seems Kyle Hussman Stokes, just a real extraordinary person. He and I went to film school together.
Wow.
Um, he is a army vet and is just like an incredibly, just a natural leader, but just a really good person. And we kind of talked here and there. He was a commercial director, and then he was like, "Hey, I want to write something with you." And this was basically, I think it was like March 2020, as the
Oh
pandemic was
wow.
hitting. Like I think the last dinner I had out before lockdowns and stuff was with Kyle and a few of my friends, a few of our
Wow.
friends. Um, it was at like this great restaurant in Los Angeles that does mole. Anyway, um, and uh, yeah, and so we talked, and at the same time, I had some. My mother was dealing with some health issues, so I was like, I can't write a whole script with you right now. I'm just kind of caretaking and dealing with a lot. But I've wanted to work with Kyle for so long, and so I was like, let's just talk about the story. Like, let's break the story down. And like tell the story is we basically spent 10 days on the phone talking
Wow.
for an hour, hour and a half, and because we couldn't see each other, right? Couldn't be in person, and just hashed this thing out. And he had the original concept of like, you know, an army vet, and then it's kind of like working through PTSD by having like an imaginary friend,
Yeah.
imagine her imaginary dead friend from the army, and it was just it's so much fun to work like that. It's just like pure collaboration, pure creativity. You're not thinking about all the business of making a movie yet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just trying to like do the best story you can come up with at the time. And it was really fun, really a really great experience. And then, after we were done, he had this outline, and then I would just hear from him a few times a year, just being like, "Hey, it's a short now. Hey, we're about to do a reading. I'm shooting the feature now." And then like I just got this deadline article where it's like he's attached Ed Harris to
Yeah,
it.
that's what I was just gonna ask about. The
Yeah,
cast was freaking phenomenal.
I, like that was my reaction. Um, Morgan Freeman, again,
Yes.
Sonequa is incredible, and Natalie, obviously, just she's like the light of the movie. It's so much fun, and we, I would just like get these little missives from him, like, hey, this is what's happening now. This is what's happening now, and then it's like the day he found out I got into South by, like he told me, and I was just like, get out, that's insane. And then the premiere there was incredible, and like just the story is incredibly personal, um from Kyle's perspective, and it was like for me it just felt like a real honor to even be a part of like
Wow.
receiving his story, you know what I mean, and then like
Yeah.
helping him even construct it into what it eventually became. And he worked with a screenwriter named AJ who is phenomenal. Like they did an incredible job putting the screenplay together. um And yeah, it was just totally thrilled. And then seeing the response, like with veterans too, especially, right? Like having veterans respond to the movie, and then like non-veterans, also like seeing things from that perspective. It's like a movie with a cause, a story with a cause, and it's just really special to be a part of that. So like there's like
No,
yeah.
great. It's a great thing. Okay. This is how I took. We all had imaginary friends growing up as kids.
Hmm.
I mean, technically, I talk to myself.
Sure.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can't tell somebody like, oh, I was thinking out loud, but in reality, but that's how people cope. People cope with situations in certain ways.
Hmm.
And someone may talk to someone that's not actually there, but you can't let people know because then they may think you're crazy, but it's there. I mean, like even I liked it like Dexter, like that
Oh.
where he talks to his dad.
Hmm.
I love that. It's like he's
Hmm.
getting advice from someone who's not there, but it's
Hmm.
really his own mind.
Hmm.
I don't know how you guys came up with that. That was just great.
Kyle brought that component, and we just like honed the characters, the relationships, how they relate to each other and everyone else in the movie. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, if anyone gets a chance to see it, I just would, I highly recommend it. It's very moving. It is
Yeah,
based
it
on
is.
Kyle's relationship with a few of his platoon mates who,
Wow.
yeah, so it's incredibly moving. It's very personal, and it was just like an honor to be even a part of it. So,
That's freaking awesome. So guys, if you haven't seen it, um, go find it, either rent it or buy it. It is a definitely movie you want to watch. It, like I said, it was at South by Southwest. Which Southwest, if you don't know, it's a great film festival. They have indie films that are there, of course, big name films as well. But you get to meet directors, upcoming writers. Um, I missed the premiere on this one because I was covering another one, and it's like we have to like be in different areas, and I was like, I'm
Oh,
like,
totally.
and
Oh,
I wanted
totally.
to. It was South by Southwest this past year was crazy. So every year it seems like it's been getting crazier and crazier. But it's a great film festival. I mean, you get to if you're lucky enough, I mean, to get a seat in to watch the movies, it's great. I mean, because sometimes like we got to see it at Accountant this past year before it dropped,
Yeah,
and it was great to getting to see it before everybody else. And it's as a TV buff and movie buff as myself and comic book buff, getting to see stuff and getting to see, the writers and directors and stuff put stuff together like this is great. I wish
yeah,
we would have more stuff like this type of movie. Don't get me wrong, reboots and continuations are great, but new stuff is always fun because it opens your mind and you get to see a different format, and every director has a different way they film and stuff like that as well. So,
yeah.
what do
I
we
really
have?
do both, I think, Try to get both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we can.
What do we have to look forward to you that what else at your work? Because normally most writers are normally writing, which I don't understand how they do this. They write 2 to 3 stories at one time. I How do y'all do that?
Out of necessity, I think, more than anything. I mean, especially like comic writers, like people who work almost exclusively in comics.
Yeah.
Like, you've got like 7 things coming out every month, and I'm like, that's insane. That's like incredible. But yeah, a lot of it is kind of rotating through everything you've got going on. So I'm actually juggling. Um, it's funny. My dead friend Zoe came out, and then a week later, I produced a little bit another movie that was also in theaters.
Oh wow. What?
So it's a film called We're All Gonna Die. It's gonna be on digital release soon, but we're like kind of finishing out like a theatrical run right now. So I'm still doing a little producing work. Um, but so Aphra's coming out, and then I'm working on another feature on a producing end,
Oh
and then I'm
wow.
writing some things that have not been announced yet. So
That's freaking
um,
awesome.
I will try and put things out as when I can. But um, yeah, it's a very, I mean, I'm sure covering it with strikes and everything going on. It's a very really wild, scary, but exciting time to be making things like making films, making TV shows, making comics, making video games. Like everyone is like in a state of flux right now and figuring out what comes next.
Yeah.
I've been really, really fortunate, and so you know, well, I think it's an exciting time to kind of see how, especially from an independent filmmaking standpoint or an independent creator standpoint, like what options are available to you and like how we're going to pivot so that you're not always waiting for like some things you work with like really big partners, but sometimes you have to do things without permission, right? Like not permission, but like how do you go about it in a truly indie way, right?
Yeah.
So that's really exciting, and it's really wild. So we'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully Dr. Aphra kicks it off and you can do a Kickstarter and use that Kickstarter to produce your first comic
Oh, that
that
would
you
be
were.
awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of comic book creators that are doing that now,
Yeah.
and it's working
Yeah.
because now they get to keep their own creative rights,
Mhm.
and not only that, once that gets published, it opens a door for film industries to say, "Hey, this guy published his own comic, and or female published their own comic, and now we can, hey, let's buy the rights for that." Or you know what I mean? So it opens a door when stuff like that happens, and
Mhm.
hopefully with Dr. Aphra kicking it off and Radiant Red that you can do a Kickstarter eventually and we can get either maybe a graphic novel or first couple of issues, like a teaser. I think that would be pretty cool.
That would be awesome. I'm determined to get that, find that find that first book a home somewhere someday, a
Do you
good
have
home.
any do you have any artist in mind that you would like to see do your bring your thing to life?
Oh man, you know what? No one I'll say right now, but
Okay, okay, okay.
um, there's because I kind of want to leave things on the table, you know.
Okay, okay.
But there's so many. Honestly, after Radiant Red and working with Gabriel on this, and like just seeing really, and then we've got a well, I don't know if I can say, but we've worked with a few other artists on Aphra too now, but uh, just seeing what really incredible sequential artists can do is mind blowing. Like, you know, I think a lot of people who do comics, a lot of people who don't know that much about comics are like, "Oh, do you illustrate them as well?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." Like, I am not nowhere near talented enough to do what they do. It is really stunning. And that's like that's honestly my favorite part about doing comics is like seeing the artists turn their inks in and like having that experience together. It's so cool.
Yeah,
So,
because they bring your words to life.
in ways that I'm like just truly blow my mind. Like in Rainy Red, like David LaFuente did the art
Yeah.
with Mikel Muerto was just, I mean, they're like a dream team. But David would turn in, he would just send us some pages, and I was like, just the emotion is wild, you know. So yeah, shout out to sequential artists everywhere, like truly doing the work. I mean, this is their medium, you know. We just kind of do our best to support them and give them exciting things to do.
Oh yeah. They're the greatest. I mean, that's why I'm doing this, interviewing writers like you and artists, because every artist, every writer has a different story.
Hmm.
Like you went to film school. There's some artists I've interviewed who tried to get into art school and got turned down.
Hmm.
And now they're working for Marvel. So guys, let this be a lesson. Never give up. If you love something, you may fall down, get back up and try again.
Yeah.
You only learn from your mistakes. And one of the things I always ask our creators before we get off, for someone up and coming, what were the words you would give to them to inspire them or help them?
Ooh. You know, you think I would have a really simple answer to this at this point? I would say, and it's going to be it is always a bumpy road if it's
Yes.
something you really care about. I would say invest your time in something that you are doing for you. Like, do not, um, it's easy to chase what you think will work because of what other people, like what the audience wants or what trends are telling you to do, or, um, you know, kind of like what you think others will respond to. But ultimately, like, look at all the incredible creators or like the trendsetters, right? The people who like kind of make a mark. It's like they really come to it because it was something that they were wanting to put out. And if you're going to do it in the long term, especially, like if you're going to make a career out of it, it it becomes a job and it becomes a grind. And so the only way you're going to be able to do that grind is if you love it.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you don't love it, like look at you with you guys on this podcast, right? Like it's so much work. You're working so many jobs and you're doing
Yeah.
this at like so late at night and you love it, right? So
That's it.
that counts for something. Like it really has to be, um, if you want to turn it into something beyond a hobby, beyond just your passion, and into something bigger than that, and for it to find success, it really should be something that you are willing to continually put your work into.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy, but it's awesome. It's rewarding. It can be.
No, it is. I mean, getting to sit down with people like you, it really makes it worth doing this because, growing up as a kid, if I had an opportunity to sit down with Stanley and talk to him the way I'm talking to you, I would have been in heaven.
Hmm.
Um, but if you would have told 9-year-old me back then, oh yeah, when you're 49, you're gonna get to sit down and talk to a comic book writer that's writing a book that you love. I would have been like, yeah, right. My dad used to get mad at me for watching too much TV, too much cartoons, and reading comic books. And now I have my regular job and I get to sit down and talk to people like you. And
Mhm.
it is worth every hour, getting off of work. Setting up these interviews is always fun too. When I get a response back from people like you that you're taking time out of your busy day from writing and your regular life to sit down and talk with me is definitely worth it.
Almost every single one of these has just been creators like you are so rewarding to talk to, and it's just you're a fundamental part of like how the community works, how the industry works, you know? So, like, it is honestly, I'm honored that you invited me. And
Thank you.
it's just great. I mean, this is like why we do what we do, right? We want to talk about it with other people who care about it. So, it's awesome.
Thanks again. Where can people find you before we get off? So that
Oh,
if they want to follow any things that you drop, any new stuff that you're working on.
I'm so bad at social media, but I'm only on Instagram at Cherish the Chen. I think that's my username. But you can find me on Instagram, Cherish Chen,
Okay,
if
cool.
you search me, and that's usually where I'll post updates. Yeah, I try my best. I'm not the most astute, but I'll always keep. That's where it'll be.
Okay, cool. All right, well, countdown. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to getting you more awesome writers and creators on the show. Follow and like, and also go follow her.
Thank you.